The next age stage we'll review are the preschool years, which is from 2.5 years to 5 years old. When it comes to physical development, preschoolers' bodies do continue to change. They start to have adult-like proportions, or they start to emerge. So again, proportion-wise, their heads start to even out with the rest of their bodies. They'll grow about 3 inches in height, and they'll still grow a little bit rapidly and gain about 3 to 5 pounds per year. And that will all depend, of course, on their health and nutrition and exercise regimens that their parents help them with. With gross motor skills, so again, remember gross motor skills are the larger body movements. They definitely have a little bit more skill and speed. They can ride a tricycle, pull a wagon, walk sideways, backwards. They can run and suddenly stop, increase their speed. And at this point, they can alternate feet when using stairs. So if you remember during the toddler years, they would have to go up the stairs 1 foot at a time. But at this point, they can alternate feet and climb upstairs as normal, like we do. With some gross motor skills and abilities, there are a lot of different types of activities that preschoolers can engage in. If you think about some games that you played when you were a preschooler, Red Rover, musical chairs, Hokey Pokey. There are a ton of different partner clapping games, Ring Around the Rosie, Tag, Duck, Duck, Goose, any of those types of games that preschoolers can definitely engage in just because they can do a lot more and they're more skilled with their bodies and with a lot of their movements. With fine motor skills, again, these are just more their fingers, toes, and more smaller muscle movements. Girls do develop a little bit faster than boys. That's just how some genetics are. Preschoolers will have improved hand-eye coordination. They will establish their left hand or right hand dominance when it comes to their the hand they write with. So you'll see that kind of emerge. And they'll be able to do a lot of self-help skills like button, zip, wash their hands, brush their teeth, and they'll be able to feed themselves without a huge mess, hopefully at this point, just because they have more accuracy in bringing a spoon or fork directly into their mouth. They'll also get more skills with cutting, pacing, tracing, and coloring, as you probably did when you were in preschool and when you get into kindergarten. So a lot of activities that help them with a lot of fine motor skills. With social and emotional development, this really has a lot to do with the way adults respond and guide conflict. So that's something that you'll have a choice to learn more about, is how to really guide preschoolers effectively when they've done something wrong and when they're acting up. Adults are the main role models for preschoolers at this point, and they look up to adults and will copy adults in whatever they do or whatever they hear them say. A lot of their social behaviors that will start to develop, they'll start to have a lot of friendships outside of the family just because they're exposed to more people. Maybe they're going to preschool play groups, going to the park, things like that. They'll learn a lot more when it comes to sharing and how to share accordingly. They'll start to view each other as male and female and kind of know the distinction between the two. They'll practice and develop more conflict resolution skills, and they'll start to be able to see the world through other viewpoints. So when a friend is sad or crying, they'll be able to empathize with them and try to see what's going on in their perspective. With controlling and expressing emotions, like I had mentioned, preschoolers do learn how to appropriately express and recognize emotions, especially with others. And they'll start to learn how to verbally resolve issues instead of physically. So when they were toddlers, maybe they would hit somebody or push someone if they didn't get something that they wanted. But as they're developing, they should be able to express their feelings verbally. When it comes to dependency, preschoolers definitely need an environment that encourages independence. So you want to give them a chance to do things on their own and to give them praise, help them when needed. But preschoolers are still going to want to try to do things a lot by themselves, even if it's above their capabilities. However, it's the parent's job or the caregiver's job to help guide them and offer them some support and guidance wherever that they do need. This article here with teaching children how to resolve conflict respectfully is something that I will post for you to take a look at. This just gives some insight on what you can do as a caregiver or parent to help preschoolers resolve conflict rather than, being aggressive or yelling at them. When it comes to love, preschoolers will learn to love and show love and caring in new ways. One big thing is that they want to show that by helping others. So they will always offer to help in the kitchen or to help their teacher with something or more to help others their age with things that they may know how to do. So that's going to be really the main form that they show love is by helping others. When they are in a childcare or maybe preschool setting, preschoolers will form attachment to 2 to 4 kids and have kind of a tight group or maybe one other person that they play with. And when their friends are gone, they may feel lost or you may see a change in mood from them simply because they are out of their comfort zone and they don't have, their regular friends that they're used to. With fear, preschoolers can understand the difference between real and imaginary. They can rationalize imaginary fear, but they can still be afraid. So they may know that the monster under the bed doesn't exist, but just thinking about it, they still may be scared. They may fear a lot more of being hurt just because they are aware of the world around them and what can happen, and they're just more cognizant of a lot of the dangers that exist in their environment. They'll know how to express anger, and one big thing with preschoolers that is important is that they need to know that it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to be aggressive and not to take out being angry on someone else or a peer that's around them and being physical with them. With intellectual development, again, they do learn through a lot of their senses. They'll understand very simple concepts, up, down, over, under, here, there. They'll be able to place small items in larger containers and be able to rearrange toys and different objects. Time is something that preschoolers will still have some difficulty with. They're not going to understand quite exact times. They may be able to tell you some numbers, but time concepts in general are going to be very difficult. So if you're going to talk to a preschooler and talk to them about yesterday or tomorrow or in 30 minutes, they're not going to be able to understand that time concept. You have to be able to kind of rationalize that or give them some frame of reference so they can understand when that time is without being too specific when you're giving them the amount of minutes. So for instance, these are just some scenarios here, but a child wants to go to the park, but you can't take them until 1 more hour passes. How can you explain this to them? Or a child wants to know when winter is. It is currently June. How do you explain it? So with the first scenario here, if they want to go to the park, you can maybe explain to them, after we eat lunch or after this show, then we can go to the park. Or after we spend some time cleaning your room, we can go to the park. So again, putting something in frame of reference that they'll be able to do or be able to recognize to know when 1 hour is. With a second scenario around when winter is and it's currently June, one way that you can explain this is when we start seeing snow or when it starts getting colder outside, that's when winter is. So it can kind of break it down for them and saying, instead of saying winter is in 6 months, they're not going to know or be able to conceptualize that at all. These are some other ways that you can kind of explain that. As I mentioned, 1 episode of Sesame Street, and then we'll go to the park. After we eat breakfast or after we eat lunch. When it's Halloween, it's fall. When it's snow, it means winter. So really thinking about what they'll be able to recognize and notice in regards to time will help them be able to distinguish that time concept. With language, their articulation improves, so they'll be able to pronounce a lot more difficult words. You'll be able to understand them a lot more. You'll see that their vocabulary increases dramatically, and they'll develop a lot of grammar skills and word order just based on, interacting with others. Even if they are in a preschool setting and it has an educational piece, they'll teach them more language development. And a lot of their vocabulary may come from other friends, what they hear around the house, if they're watching TV. So especially as caregivers and parents, older siblings, you definitely want to be aware of what you are saying around preschoolers because they will mimic that. With drawing in general, they attempt to portray the world through drawings. So if you do give a preschooler some paper, crayons, colored pencils, they're going to draw what they think. Typically, they're going to draw something and then decide what the picture represents. They're not going to know ahead of time what they're drawing. They're just going to go at it. And then if you ask them what they drew, they'll come up with that after the fact that they're done. So looking at this picture here, take a moment and think about what you think this picture represents. To me, it seems like some type of animal, maybe a zebra, and another type of animal. However, what this preschooler had wrote is that the lion tricked the dragon and the dragon got dizzy. The dragon breathed fire and spun around to get dizzy. The monkey is trying to climb the tree and get the banana, but he keeps laughing. So really hard to interpret just from the drawing in general, but when you ask and have a preschooler describe that, they will definitely be able to tell you what they are thinking based on what they drew.